Mom kicked me out for her new family. Later, when she found out I'm successful, she showed up demanding college money for my siblings. When I refused, she hit me. I, 28F, never thought I'd be writing this, but after what happened yesterday, I need some outside perspective. I've been shaking while typing this, and honestly, I've had to step away from my computer several times to collect myself. Some background: my parents divorced when I was 14. Dad passed away in a car accident just 6 months later, leaving me with only my mom. I still remember the last conversation I had with him. He was dropping me off at school, and he said, "Princess, remember that no matter what happens with the divorce, you'll always be my number one girl." He gave me his signature bear hug, the kind that made everything feel okay. That was the last time I saw him alive. Mom started dating almost immediately after Dad's funeral, which was hard enough to process, but I tried to be understanding. She met Steve within a year, and everything changed. I remember her being so excited to introduce him, saying, "Honey, this is Steve. He's going to make our family whole again." I wanted to scream that our family was already whole before Dad died, but I swallowed those words like I'd been swallowing my grief. Steve came with 3 kids of his own, 12M, 10F, and 8F at the time. From the moment they moved in, it was clear that my mom was trying to create this perfect blended family image, but I wasn't fitting into the picture she wanted to paint. She started treating me differently, less attention, less affection, and eventually, less everything. Family photos started featuring just them with their kids. My academic achievements were downplayed while Steve's kids' smallest accomplishments were celebrated with dinner parties. I still remember the day she forgot my 16th birthday. She was busy planning her stepdaughter's dance recital, and when I mentioned it at dinner, she just said, "Oh, right. We'll celebrate next weekend." We never did. Meanwhile, each of Steve's kids got elaborate birthday parties with themes and dozens of guests. The breaking point came when I was 17. I had been working part-time at a local bookstore, trying to save money for college since Mom had started hinting that Steve's kids' education would need the money that Dad had left for my college fund. That day, I came home from work to find my things packed in boxes in the garage. Some of my most precious possessions, including the last birthday card Dad gave me, were carelessly stuffed into garbage bags. Mom was standing there with Steve, and she said the words that would change our relationship forever: "We need to make some changes around here. The kids need more space, and you're old enough to understand that." When I asked where I was supposed to go, she actually said, "You're nearly an adult. Figure it out. I've already sacrificed enough of my happiness trying to tiptoe around your grief." I still remember standing in that garage, looking at my whole life packed away in cardboard boxes, while she stood there with this expression that I can only describe as indifference. The worst part? Steve's oldest son was watching from the doorway with this smirk on his face. He'd been telling his siblings for months that I wasn't really part of their family, and now he was being proved right. That night, I called my dad's sister, Aunt Sarah, crying. I can still hear her voice cracking as she said, "Stay right there, sweetheart. I'm coming to get you." She drove 3 hours in the middle of the night to pick me up. When she arrived, Mom didn't even come out to say goodbye. Living with Aunt Sarah changed my life. She was tough but loving, exactly what I needed. On my first night there, she sat me down and said, "Your father would be heartbroken to see what's happened, but he'd be so proud of how strong you are." She helped me focus on school, encouraged me to apply for scholarships, and supported me through college. She even took a second job to help with my expenses, something my own mother couldn't be bothered to do for her biological daughter. I got my degree in computer science, landed a great job at a tech company, and eventually started my own successful software consulting business. During this time, I went through intensive therapy to deal with the abandonment trauma. My therapist helped me understand that my mother's actions weren't about my worth as a person, but about her own inadequacies as a parent. I went completely no contact with my mom after moving out. She tried reaching out a few times during college, but it was always about her, how hurt she was that I left, how I was tearing the family apart, how selfish I was being. The most memorable message came on my college graduation day. She texted, "I hope you're happy now that you've gotten your degree. Your absence has really hurt your siblings. No congratulations, no acknowledgement of my achievement, just guilt tripping." Fast forward to yesterday. I was having lunch at my favorite cafe, reviewing some contracts for my business, when someone tapped my shoulder. There stood my mom, looking older but wearing the same self-righteous expression I remembered. She'd apparently found out about my success through some mutual acquaintances on Facebook. The conversation started civilly enough. She asked about my life, my business, trying to act like a proud mother who'd been there all along. "I always knew you'd do well," she said, as if she hadn't actively tried to prevent my success by taking away my college fund. Then came the real reason for her visit. Steve had lost his job during the pandemic, and they were struggling financially. Her stepkids, now 26M, 24F, and 22F, were all in college or about to start graduate school, and they needed help with tuition. Here's our conversation, as best as I can remember it. Mom, you know, your siblings are really struggling with their student loans. Me, they're not my siblings. Mom, don't be like that. Family is family. Me, funny how that wasn't your motto when you packed my things in garbage bags. Mom, that was different. You were being difficult, and the kids needed. Me, I was grieving my father. Mom, you're still hanging on to that? This is exactly why we needed space from your negative attitude. I listened quietly as she explained how, as their successful big sister, I had a responsibility to help my siblings. The audacity of this woman, who had thrown away her own child, trying to lecture me about family responsibility, was astounding. When I firmly told her no, she exploded. Right there, in the middle of the cafe, she started screaming about how selfish I was, how I was just like my father, as if that was an insult, and how I was letting my bitterness ruin the lives of innocent siblings. Then, when I stood up to leave, she actually slapped me across the face. The cafe went silent. Several people gasped. I stood there, hand on my cheek, as security approached. Before they could reach us, I looked her in the eye and said, "You stopped being my mother the day you chose your perfect new family over your daughter. You don't get to come back now just because you want my money." She was escorted out by security, screaming that I would regret this. I sat back down, hands shaking, and finished my now cold coffee while the other patrons pretended not to stare. A kind elderly couple at the next table insisted on paying for my meal and gave me their contact information in case I needed witnesses for a police report. Later that evening, my phone exploded with messages from Steve's kids. Some choice excerpts. From the oldest, "You always thought you were better than us. Guess you proved it by being a selfish BTCH. From the middle child, Mom gave you everything and this is how you repay her? By letting your own family struggle? From the youngest, I hope you're happy with yourself. Mom's crying because of you. Again." Some extended family members are also saying I should help because they're still your siblings and family helps family. My mom's sister even called to say I'm being childish and need to get over my teenage angst. But here's the thing, where was this family helps family mentality when I was sleeping on an air mattress in my aunt's guest room at 17? Where was it when I was working 2 jobs to help pay for my own college? Where was it during all the holidays and birthdays I spent alone while they played happy family? I know I'm financially capable of helping. My business has done very well, and I could afford to help with their tuition. Last year alone, my company's revenue was in the 7 figures. But I feel like I don't owe them anything. These aren't siblings I grew up with or formed bonds with, they're the kids of the man my mom chose over me. The cafe incident has been weighing on me, though. Am I letting my past trauma affect my judgment? Should I be the bigger person and help them, even though my mom and they never tried to maintain any relationship with me? Am I wrong for feeling a bit of satisfaction at being able to say no to the woman who threw me away? Edit 1. Thank you all for the overwhelming support. To address some common questions. 1. Yes, I filed a police report about the assault. The cafe has security footage, and several witnesses gave their contact information. The elderly couple who paid for my meal wrote detailed statements. 2. My aunt, Dad's sister, is still my rock and fully supports my decision. She reminded me that my dad's life insurance and inheritance, roughly $180,000, were supposed to help with my college, but Mom used it all on her new family instead. When I confronted Mom about this years ago, she said Steve's kids needed it more since they didn't have a father's insurance to rely on. The mental gymnastics there still astounds me. 3. I've blocked all of them on social media and am considering legal action if the harassment continues. My company's legal team has already drafted cease and desist letters. 4. Several people have asked about my success. I started my company 5 years ago with $3,000 and a lot of determination. Now we employ 30 people and are projected to hit 8 figures in revenue next year. Every penny was earned through hard work, long nights, and sacrifices, none of which my mother or her new family were around to witness. Edit 2. Some people have asked about my relationship with Steve's kids. Truth is, there isn't one. During the year I lived with them, they were encouraged to treat me as an outsider. They had their own inside jokes, family game nights I wasn't invited to, and family photos where I was asked to step out because it's just for the little ones. I was basically the live-in babysitter until I wasn't needed anymore. A specific incident stands out. For Christmas that year, Steve's kids each got new laptops and phones. I got a $20 gift card to a bookstore that had gone out of business. When I tried to tell Mom how hurt I was, she said, they needed the expensive gifts more because their transition into a new family has been so hard. My transition apparently didn't matter. Edit 3, to those saying I should be the bigger person, I spent years in therapy learning that I don't have to set myself on fire to keep others warm. My money is going toward my future, my eventual children's education, and the aunt who actually showed me what family means. I also donate to organizations that help teens who've been kicked out of their homes. Last year, I established a scholarship fund in my father's name for students who have lost a parent. That's where my responsibility lies. Edit 4, someone asked about my father's family photos and belongings. After I moved out, Mom gave most of them to Goodwill because they were taking up space in the attic. The only things I have left of my dad are his watch, which Aunt Sarah saved for me, and a single photo album I managed to grab the night I left. The casual cruelty of erasing him still takes my breath away sometimes. Final update, the messages from flying monkeys have mostly stopped after I started responding with the security footage screenshots of Mom assaulting me. Amazing how quickly family helps family turns into let's not make this a legal issue when evidence of assault is involved. My company's legal team, yes, the same one my family wants money from, has sent formal cease and desist letters to everyone involved. The cafe incident has been documented with the police, and I'm pursuing charges for assault. Several witnesses have come forward, including the cafe staff and other patrons. As for Steve's kids' college funds, I did some digging. Turns out Mom and Steve took out a second mortgage on their house to fund the oldest two's education, expecting the youngest to get scholarships. When that didn't happen, they assumed they could guilt me into paying. Well, they assumed wrong. Thank you all for helping me feel validated in my decision. Sometimes we need strangers on the internet to remind us that we're not crazy for maintaining boundaries with toxic family members. Special thanks to those who shared similar stories, it helps to know we're not alone. Final update. It's been 6 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I wasn't planning on posting again, but recent events have given me the closure I never knew I needed. First, the legal stuff, the assault charges against my mother proceeded. She tried to play the "but I'm her mother" card in court, but the cafe's security footage and witness statements spoke for themselves. She was found guilty of assault and ordered to take anger management classes, pay a fine, and stay 500 feet away from me and my place of business. The look on her face when the judge mentioned my company's address, all 6 locations, was priceless. The cease and desist letters worked on most of the flying monkeys, but Steve's oldest son decided to try something stupid. He showed up at one of my company's client meetings, attempting to expose me as a heartless person who abandoned my family. Plot twist, the client was so impressed by how my team and I handled the situation professionally that they doubled their contract with us. Thanks, step bro. Now, the unexpected part. 2 weeks ago, I received an email from Steve's youngest daughter, 22F. Unlike her siblings' usual harassment, this was different. She apologized. Turns out, she's been in therapy herself and realized some hard truths about our family dynamic. She wrote, "I was too young to understand what was happening when you were kicked out. Mom, your mom, always painted you as the villain who abandoned us, but recently I found your old diaries in the attic while helping them pack for downsizing. Reading about how you were treated. I couldn't sleep for days. I'm so sorry. I don't expect forgiveness, but you deserved better." The diaries she found were from when I was 14 to 17. I'd forgotten about them in the chaos of being kicked out. Reading her email brought back all those memories, but this time, I felt strength instead of pain. I wrote back, thanking her for her apology but explaining that while I appreciate her recognition of the past, I'm not interested in building a relationship. Here's where it gets interesting. She replied with information about what happened after I left. Apparently, my mom and Steve used my college fund to put the older 2 kids through private universities. When it came time for the youngest's education, the money was gone. My mom assured them they could guilt me into paying once they found the right moment to approach me. They had been planning this ambush for over a year. She also shared that my mom's perfect new family isn't so perfect. Steve's oldest son has massive gambling debts, and the middle daughter is on her 3rd failed business venture, all funded by my mom and Steve's home equity loans. They're now facing foreclosure, which is why they desperately needed my money. Some karmic justice. Remember that playroom they converted my bedroom into? It had a leak that was never properly fixed because they used the maintenance money for the older kids' tuition. The resulting mold damaged most of their precious family-only photos. Aunt Sarah said she'd normally never laugh at someone's misfortune, but she'll make an exception this time. The biggest update is about my own life. I'm engaged. My fiancé, 30M, and I met through a charity organization that helps teens aging out of foster care, something I became passionate about after my own experience with family abandonment. He knows my whole story and has been incredibly supportive. When my mom somehow got our engagement announcement, small town gossip travels fast, and tried to contact me about being part of the wedding, he was the one who handed her contact details straight to our lawyers. Speaking of the wedding, Aunt Sarah will be walking me down the aisle. We're having it at the lake house my company recently bought, the same lake house my mom always dreamed of owning but could never afford. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. My company has expanded to 3 new cities, and we just launched a foundation that provides housing and education support for displaced teens. The first recipient of our scholarship is a 17-year-old girl whose mother kicked her out for similar reasons to mine. When she thanked me, saying my story inspired her not to give up, I finally felt like all the pain had a purpose. The biggest plot twist? 2 days ago, my mom's sister, the one who called me childish, called to apologize. Apparently, she's in the middle of a divorce because her husband pulled similar stunts to what my mom did, choosing his new family over their kids. She said, "I never understood your pain until I saw it happening to my own children." I simply replied, "That's the problem. You shouldn't have to experience something personally to have empathy for others." Some final thoughts. 1. My therapist says my calmness in discussing all this shows how much I've healed. She's right. I no longer feel the gut-wrenching pain when I think about my teenage years. 2. Success really is the best revenge, but healing is the best victory. 3. The cafe where the slapping incident happened? They named a sandwich after me. It's called the Winner and comes with a side of no drama sauce. I'm a regular there now. To everyone who supported me through this journey, thank you. To those still struggling with family trauma, it gets better. Build your own family with people who choose you every day. As for my mom and her real family, I heard through the grapevine that they're telling people I'm heartless for not helping with their financial troubles. Meanwhile, I just approved another scholarship for a displaced teen and am planning a destination wedding with people who actually love me. I think Dad would be proud. Final thought, sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you're meant to be with. And that's okay. Build your own path, create your own success, and never let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting your peace.